All right, here we go. According to reports tonight, a Big 12 Pac-12 merger is officially over. That according to ESPN, and a new report coming down from Pete Thamel. I'm Pete Mundo on HeartlandCollegeSports.com. We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube. We are on Instagram Live as well. So just hopping on here the show with this breaking news tonight. A Big 12 Pac-12 merger is officially over. And I think that means the Big 12 is in a great position right now. If you think about where this league has been over the last 12 months, the Big 12 has been in a position where they were on death's door almost 12 months ago this week, right? The Big 12, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, everybody said this conference is over, it's kaput, everybody was looking to bail. And then, to Bob Bowlesby's credit, they pick up BYU, they pick up Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati. They now get back to 12 after Oklahoma and Texas leave. And they're in a position of strength right now. They basically told the Pac-12, bringing you guys in does absolutely nothing for us. That's apparently what happened here, according to this report, which I'll share with you as we roll through the show. We're doing this breaking Monday night show on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Instagram to share this news with you. So Pete Thamel reports that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 had discussed extensively the possibility of a merger the last 2 weeks. He added that officials from the Big 12 told Pac-12 officials on Monday that they are no longer interested in exploring this partnership. Why? The Big 12 sources said the revenue was the major hangup because any merger with the remaining Pac-10 teams would not bring additional revenue to the table. So the two sides, according to this report from ESPN, had at least 3 calls on Zoom to discuss a merger. The Pac-12 said, yeah, we're interested, we'll do this. So the Big 12 over the weekend, per this report, had a chance to look at the numbers a little bit, crunch the numbers, and decide whether or not this made sense. And ultimately, they said, you know what, this does not make any sense for us. This is not something that adds any money to the table. And this came on the heels of a report from CBS today that the Big 12 athletic directors were a little bit concerned because they thought adding Pac-12 schools, or they think, because it still could happen in some capacity, adding Pac-12 schools could ultimately hurt this conference from a monetary perspective. It means that they don't believe and they don't think that right now bringing more teams into the league brings more money to the table, because that's what this is all about, right? If you're not worth, as a school, $40, $50, $60 million a year, if you're not worth that to TV networks, then you're not bringing anything new to the table. Now, I still believe there's a pathway for the Big 12 to smartly add teams. Even if it doesn't add revenue, I think adding numbers, even if you're not adding revenue, can be beneficial for the Big 12. And I'll explain that here in a second. But apparently the Big 12 decided, and the people behind the scenes with new Commissioner Brett Yormark came to the conclusion that, sure, there could be value in Oregon, Washington. There could be value in Colorado, the Arizona schools. But then you're bringing on some dead weight. Oregon State, Washington State, that's dead weight. All right, there's no reason to add those schools and bring them into the equation. And even the notion of Oregon and Washington jumping in may not add the revenue stream that those two schools believe they bring to the table. That's something worth watching. That report came down last week, that Oregon and Washington think that there's these primo programs that add a ton to any conference. And yeah, that's great. Phil Knight, Nike, we all understand that. But that doesn't mean that you're adding, in the Big Ten of the SEC's perspective, $100 million per season to justify your net worth. That's what you got to do, because those leagues are going to be paying out about $100 million under the new TV contracts per team in each conference when all is said and done. So if you're not bringing $100 million to the table, they have no use for you right now. They don't need you right now. So if that's the case for Oregon and Washington, then what does it mean for the other schools? All right? What does it mean for them in terms of how much value they have or don't have. I'm not saying all the Big 12 teams have a lot of value, but here's what the Big 12 is looking at. The Big 12 is looking at the possibility of probably drawing what the ACC is going to draw in terms of per-team revenues from TV rights. Anywhere from $50 to $60 million when all is said and done. Now, no one's going to cry poor over $50 to $60 million per year in TV rights revenues, but it's not going to be Big Ten SEC money. You can still have a great program. You can still compete at a very high level, but there's going to be a major drop-off between the Power 2 conferences. We all understand that. But if the Big 12 is smart here, I don't think they stand pat. I don't think they say, well, a complete merger doesn't make sense, so we're just going to kind of sit back and we're going to let this thing play out, because that's exactly how the Big 12 has gotten screwed time and time again in the past. That's how it's happened. Over the last 15 years, the Big 12 has gotten screwed resting on its laurels. They can't let that happen again. So what they should do now is still look at expansion. I would look at the Arizona schools as a pair. You get solid media markets in a growing state in Arizona. You get Phoenix, top 15 media market. Tucson's not a bad market. I think you get a lot of tens of thousands of undergrads every year at those two schools combined. I'm not saying they're a bunch of Mensa members, but I'm just saying you get a lot of people. It's all about eyeballs. Colorado knows the Big 12. All right, they're former Big 12 members. You tap into the Denver market. You go out west. Makes sense. I like that. And then you look at Utah as a partner for BYU. I understand there's beef between BYU and Utah, but you guys got to get over it. We've got tens of millions of dollars on the line. Let's go. And then if Oregon and Washington want to talk, fine. If not, let them wilt away in the Pac-12 and hope they're getting a Big Ten offer. It's like, what Oregon and Washington are doing, and they're complete fools to be doing it. They should just say, we're in the Big 12. We'll join the Big 12 tomorrow. If they were smart, that's what they'd be doing. But they are so convinced. If you go back to high school and you always knew the guy who was a solid 5 who thought he had a chance with the 10. That's what Oregon and Washington are. They are all right, maybe they're not 5s. They're solid 7.5s. All right, they're not quite 8s. They're 7.5s when you look top to bottom. But they think that they can land the 10, and they can't. They can't land the 10. So get in your league, literally play within your league, join the Big 12. You'll have a clear number 3 Power 4 conference at that point. You won't be the Big 10. You won't be the SEC. But you know what? You'll be in a very good position, a very healthy position. And that's what they've got to do right now. And then Oregon State, Washington State, I'm sorry, guys, someone's got to lose here. Big 12 shouldn't bring them in. Let them go to the Mountain West, and then wipe your hands clean, and it's all done. That's what's got to happen right now. That's what the Big 12 needs to be looking to do right now in this whole thing. On Facebook Live, let's see what we got here. Pete, will the Big 12 sweep the leg of the Pac-12 now? Well, you just heard what I think they need to be doing. Michael writes, better act too soon than too late. Completely agree. What else do we have? John, new Big 12 commissioner needs to attack. Completely agree. Completely agree. Brett Yormark, who I believe in, needs to attack, and he needs to attack right now. Patrick writes, we need that holy war beef. Big 12 needs great rivalries again. And yes, they do, and they can get them. It's going to take time with some of these. I'm not saying West Virginia, UCF is going to be a great rivalry next week. It's not going to be a rivalry next week. It can be one. I think West Virginia-Cincinnati can be a better rivalry for obvious reasons, geographically speaking. But the Big 12 is going to build up rivalries. There's going to be new ones to come, and you're not going to lose the old ones. All right, you lose Texas, Oklahoma, you lose Bedlam, but you are still going to have some great rivalries in this conference with the older Big 12 teams. And if you add the right programs, they'll come on board. Roy says go get Stanford. Stanford's not coming. Stanford, I could see going independent before they do anything else. All right, I could see Stanford going the Notre Dame route before they go anywhere else. Steven on Instagram Live, Big 12 should add SMU and Memphis, Louisville, to go with the Pac-12 6. So you're saying SMU and Memphis or Louisville. ACC contract's pretty tight. I don't see that happening. But if you add SMU and Memphis, let's just say, then you bring in the 6 Pac-12 schools, you got a solid 20-team conference. That's something to work with. I could do that. But I would first look to these Pac-12 schools and say what makes the most sense for everybody right now. And what makes the most sense, if you're Colorado, get back in the Big 12. And do it as soon as you possibly can. Because that Pac-12 is not going anywhere. It's never going to be better than the Big 12. Nobody's leaving the Big 12 or the ACC to go to the Pac-12. And if you think a merger with the ACC is going to save you, look at how well that alliance worked for you last year. The alliance was an absolute joke. That partnership between the Big Ten, or it was the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12. The Big Ten then rated the 2 best programs out west, or the 2 most notable programs out west, I guess we should say. Not the best, notable programs out west, in USC and UCLA, that started this whole snowball. So spare me all of that. I don't see that happening. I don't. But I do believe the Big 12 can still be targeted here in what it wants to do. All right? It should be, and it will be. But the huge news tonight is that any kind of merger, major merger, between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 is done. It's the Big 12 that said, we're not doing this. We're out. This is not worth it to us. And that means they're operating from a position of strength, which is a good place for the Big 12 to be. And it's a place that a lot of people thought just a few months ago they would never have a chance to be ever again. I'm Pete Mundo. We're HeartlandCollegeSports.com, your independent Big 12 digital media outlet. I want to thank you guys. If you're on the podcast, leave a rating, review, subscribe. We have a lot of podcast content coming out. You get a free Heartland College Sports koozie when you leave me a rating and a review, and send me a screenshot to Pete Mundo, Mundo, at HeartlandCollegeSports.com. And just know this site, I mean, we are now doing millions some months, millions of readers some months because of you spreading the word of this show, of this site, and it allows us to grow our staff, to build up our operation, to add podcasts, which we are doing and have done in recent weeks. So thank you for that. We couldn't do it without you. And just know we've got much more content coming your way. Subscribe on Facebook, join us on Instagram, hit us up on YouTube. We're going to be doing a lot more there as well. And we will get you guys all hooked up. I'm Pete Mundo. Take care. We'll talk to you soon as the conference realignment news continues to roll out here ahead of the 2022 college football season. Oh, Patrick asks a good question before we let you go on Facebook Live. Pete, with all these new teams, when are you all going to update the logo? Been thinking a lot about that lately. If you have logo ideas, email them to me. All right? I'll pay you for your logo if you got a good one. Pete Mundo at HeartlandCollegeSports.com. We're going to have to figure out the logo thing. You're right about that, Patrick. Not doing it right now, but it is something I think about late at night as I'm staring at the ceiling in bed. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you. We got a lot of content coming your way. Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.